On Discovery Now, his concerns include the secrets of the pyramids.
After 5,000 years, will the pyramids of Egypt reveal their secrets? Will this robot probe explain why the pharaohs created these wonders of the world? Did slaves use fantastic machines to build them? And did the ancient architects draw their inspiration from outer space? Mysteries from the files of Arthur C. Clarke, author of 2001 and inventor of the communications satellite. Now in retreat in Sri Lanka, he ponders the riddles of this and other worlds.
Many of the tombs and memorials in this Colombo graveyard are impressive reminders of past lives, but no monuments on earth are more awe-inspiring than the pyramids of Egypt. Before I saw them firsthand, I thought I knew what to expect, yet I was still overwhelmed. Endless nonsense has been written about these extraordinary structures. Some people believe the Great Pyramid carries coded prophecies about the future of our planet. Others, that a razor blade placed beneath one will be kept sharp by occult forces. But I've no time for pyramid idiocies. The last of the ancient world's 7 great wonders conceal enough real mysteries to challenge the imagination.
Only a few kilometers separate the pyramids of Giza from Cairo's modern center and the Nile. The short journey from the New World to the Old is a must for Farouk El-Baz whenever he's in town. Like all Egyptians, this famous scientist is proud of his ancestors' achievements.
They are so enormous, they are so impressive, we can't even perceive how these ancient people were able to build such enormous structures. And they're also beautiful structures. They're also located correctly as far as the north and south and east and west. They're also something that all of us still cannot completely fathom.
The pyramids were built by the pharaohs, the kings who ruled Egypt nearly 5,000 years ago.
The most important characteristic for the pharaoh is immortality. He wants to have bury a place that would stay for eternity. So they wanted to have something that would withstand all the forces of erosion, rain, and most importantly, wind.
Dr. El-Baz searches the desert for water and other resources for the Egyptian government. He believes the pyramid builders learned from the landscape.
After exploring in the western desert of Egypt for the last 2 decades, I have realized that the shape of the pyramid is the only thing that actually remains in this windy environment. Meaning that if the ancient Egyptians built that structure as a cube or a pentagon, it would have been long gone by erosion. In the Great Sand Sea, looking around, you would see absolutely nothing exists except sand and dunes for as far as the eye can see. However, every once in a while, you see a structure that is conical in shape or pyramidal in shape. I saw some that are 4-sided, honest to God pyramidal shapes, natural pyramidal shapes. I was exploring near the Clarke oasis, and in the distance, I see these 3 structures, almost identical to the view of what the pyramids of Giza are like, that of Khufu, Khafra, and Menkaure. I thought to myself, the ancient Egyptians must have learned that pyramidal structures are the only things that would persist in a windy environment, and when they wanted to build something that would persist forever, for eternity, they selected a pyramidal structure.
A less earthbound solution to the riddle of the pyramid shape comes from a Belgian engineer. The blueprint fell from the sky, according to Robert Boval.
We know that they venerated a very, very sacred relic just before they started building pyramids, which was said to have cosmic origins and was of conical shape. Now, the likelihood is that this was an oriented iron meteorite. An oriented iron meteorite is a meteorite that enters through the atmosphere without turning, and therefore its front part burns off and has this unusual shape of a cone or a pyramid.
Such meteorites are rarities prized by museums. This one is in Mexico City. New York guards another. Boval thinks a third must have hit ancient Egypt.
The object, the sacred meteor, was so sacred that it probably gave the shape to the pyramid. So the pyramid, in sorts, is a symbol of this original relic. After the pyramids were built, this sacred relic, this sacred meteorite, disappeared. We really don't know where it went. And one of the likely places is that it might have been concealed within the pyramid.
Even the secrets of the pyramid builders remain hidden. This stepped pyramid was their first design. Their second was less successful. Its sides were too steep and it cracked. The pharaoh rejected the bent pyramid and moved his builders to the site next door. Luckily for them, they got it right this time. The workers are usually thought to have been slaves. But in his excavations, Dr. Sahi Hawass, General Director of the Giza Pyramids, has unearthed a different story. He has found that the workers lived in a village next to the site. Every morning they passed through this gate on the way to their monumental task. Hawass's key discovery is the workers' graves.
We are sure 100% of the classification of the people who are buried here through the inscriptions. It say inspector of building tombs, director of building pyramids, and all these poor tombs are for the workmen. And you can imagine that for the first time now we know things about them. We know what kind of dress they had. Is like some of the workmen that you see working for me now. We know about their jobs for the first time. We found a unique title saying Imira Ges Mer, the overseer of the side of the pyramid. Means every side of the pyramid had someone to control it.
In their underground tombs, the laborers' bones reveal that pyramid building was a back-breaking task.
The 600 skeletons that we found down in the cemetery there showed that all the workmen had stress on their back. They were involved in moving stones. They were doing a hard work to build the pyramid for the glory of the king. This discovery proved a very important thing, that building a pyramid was not by slaves. They're buried beside the king. If they were slaves, the king will never let them to be buried in his shadow. They're buried in the shadow of the pyramids. And that is an important proof that they were not slaves.
Slaves or not, how did the workers actually construct such vast mausoleums? American engineer Robert Moores wants to find out how they could have lifted the stone blocks.
If this works, it'll be a miracle, but let's hope for the best. Okay, crew, we want to get on here. Easy does it. See if we can raise this baby.
An average pyramid block weighs more than 2 tons, but even this much smaller one takes some lifting.
Raise that block. Okay, there she goes. To get Khufu's pyramid built, for example, in 20 years, and I estimate it contains about 1.8 million blocks. Working 10 hours a day, 300 days a year, you would have to be putting a block in place every 2 minutes. The ramp theories won't get those blocks in place. You just can't get enough blocks along one ramp or even 4 ramps to get the pyramid built in that time. Okay, Neil, we're going to raise this block.
Moore's favourite theory is that the Egyptians lifted the blocks with an A-frame. But to raise massive weights, A-frames must have been used in a more sophisticated way than this.
Here's the block to be lifted, and as the workmen pull on this rope, the A-frame rotates, lifting the block. Now, at a certain point, other workmen on another rope that's attached to the block would take up the tension and hold the tension. Now the workman on the first rope could release the tension on the A-frame and take a new bite on the rope. Now the workman on the A-frame rope could pull on the A-frame, rotating it again. We get up to about this height where the block is about to go over the lip. Both sets of workmen would haul on the rope to pull the block over the edge. At that point, another A-frame up on the next level would start the process all over again.
The only surviving description of how the pyramids were built comes from an ancient Greek historian. Herodotus reported that they were built with wooden machines. Teams of workers used them to lever the blocks from one step to another up the pyramid. One of these machines has been reconstructed from the ancient Greek description by pyramid enthusiast Bob Loudermilk.
Here we have 4 lever operators, each of whom has a lever in either hand. Each lever requires only 34 pounds to be able to lift 275 pounds on this end. There's a 20-to-1 mechanical advantage. These 4 men, using this machine, could lift a block weighing approximately 5,000 pounds. A distance of probably 2¼ feet, which is the average distance of the average step on the Great Pyramid, in probably 20 to 25 minutes. After they lifted the block and elevated it, then another man inserted cribbing from down below. Once the cribbing was in place, then the block was allowed to settle back down on the cribbing. Every time the block was lifted and secured by these blocks that are placed underneath the block, underneath the large stone block, they could then shorten the chain and lift the block again until finally the block was lifted up so that it could be slid in to the next step.
At home in Colorado, Loudermilk has begun practical tests. The Egyptians used around 2 million blocks to build the Great Pyramid. Loudermilk's machine is complicated and raises the block rather slowly.
I've estimated that there were 16,000 machines. And I'm guessing that approximately 570 blocks per day were delivered to the top of the pyramid using this system.
Farouk Elbaz believes the pyramids themselves once provided the missing answers.
One of the things that I've always wondered about is the fact that the ancient Egyptians wrote down everything. So why don't we have the writing that would tell us about how the pyramids were built and what for and all of that? If we look at the step pyramid, the first one that was built, we see it was based on a big structure like this, a smaller one on top, a smaller one on top, a smaller one on top. You make a pyramidal structure made by steps. So why change this pattern, since it proved right, into the pattern that we see today? I think it is the need for making a smooth surface so you can write the history on it, so it would stay forever. The pyramids, in today's terms, might be equivalent to the billboards on our highways to tell us about the greatness of such and such or the virtues of our civilization. These were the virtues of the civilization then. There is one slight evidence that we can see today, and that is on the tip of the second pyramid, right here, where we can still see a piece of the outside plaster. And on that plaster, we can still see a hint, left over, of the red paint that used to be on the outside. I believe that the whole outside surface was painted red, the Egyptian red, this magnificent color. And then on top of that is the writing from top to bottom, and all on the sides in columns like that going down the slope on all of the sides, so everyone would be able to see the same story coming from all directions about who built the pyramid, what it meant, and when, and what for.